Welcome to Meet Your Nominee. I'm Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and I have with me Sarah Silverman, the host and executive producer of I Love You America, which is nominated for Outstanding Variety Sketch Series.
Woohoo!
Yay! Okay, so first and foremost, I wanted to talk a little bit just about the Emmys in general. Congratulations. I know you are a veteran of the Emmys. You've got a couple of wins under your belt. But how does it feel to be nominated for I Love You America?
It meant a lot to us, actually. It was, I was trying to think of it as just frosting on the cake, but my partner, Amy V, and I were a little bit teary and very happy, yeah.
Do you have any other nominees that you're really excited about this year?
Oh my gosh, so many. Well, so many in my category. I love Amy Sedaris and Drunk History and Tracy Ullman and SNL and so it's like I love the company. Oh, am I forgetting anybody? I love the company I'm in. I mean, it's a very strong and very female. So I was excited about it.
You've actually hosted some award shows before, so do you have any advice for Colin, Jost, and Michael Che?
Oh, I have no advice for them. They've got it under control. Yeah, they're going to be great.
And the last Emmys question, who would you like to dance with at the after parties?
Oh God. I'm terrible at this. That's a good question. Anybody. If I'm in a dance mode, I'm really just whoever's around me is like, it's good.
Just grabbing whoever.
Yeah. It's hard to get into that dance head. It's almost like eating cottage cheese. Like, it's gross, and you have to push yourself to eat that first bite, and then it's incredibly delicious. But I'm really not sure what I meant by that analogy, except that, like, I get embarrassed to dance, but then once I'm like, the music moves me to, I'm in a zone.
So dancing is the cottage cheese of life.
Dancing is the cottage cheese of life. Yeah. Thank you. To encapsulate that thought.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about I Love You America. You are a huge Mr. Rogers fan. He's a huge influence on you. What about I Love You America has been directly influenced by Mr. Rogers?
Definitely not the comedy, of course, but hopefully the heart of it. I mean, I think of it as Mr. Rogers for adults, and what are we adults? We're just children plus time, So I do think we really need those lessons again, and I'm not saying I'm the one to bring them, but I do think that until we see ourselves in each other, like, real change isn't going to happen on a social level. And I have very strong opinions, and they can be divisive, and I'm not trying to soften those, but I also know that there's a kind of righteousness porn I see on the internet, and I try to keep myself in check on that, because I see there's something very exhilarating about slamming someone that is wrong, and you're like, I'm right and you're wrong and fuck you, or I don't know what I can say on this side, but it doesn't cause change. It certainly doesn't change minds. It doesn't get people's porcupine needles down, or their defenses down. And until that can happen, nobody's open to change. It just is like these hard surfaces fighting each other, and it's really masturbatory. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there's a difference between speaking truth to power. It's kind of, in my mind, I think of the difference between the liars and the lied to. Mm. Who are only guilty of believing the liars, and right. I see a disparity between them, and so I think on the show we're not afraid to speak truth to power, but for the people who are just citizens, the people who are just people, who aren't entities, who aren't faceless or part of this administration, I do feel a kinship, even if our ideologies are very different. I think we're getting our news from such different sources that our truths are different. You know, we also live in a time of so much misinformation, and the internet is this wild west that I think both parties haven't assimilated to. So I'm talking out of my ass, but I think I'm making a point.
So you've said before that this show is exactly the show that you wanted to make.
It is my dream show.
Yeah. So what is it about the format that you love?
I love the monologue. It's where I can really say everything I feel. I love the family dinners. I love going out into the country, and it's the scariest part. I kind of always dread it, and then I'm always exhilarated by it. And when you're face to face with people, it's a very different scenario. And the internet isn't real life. And so I think when you're actually with people, there is a desire for connection that is human and innate. And it doesn't take a lot. It isn't a gotcha kind of show. We're not trying to get comedy out of making people look stupid. There are other shows that do that really well, and I enjoy them. But this isn't necessarily that. It makes finding the comedy much more of a challenge, but that's exciting to me. I'm older, and I want that. I want it to be harder. And it's really interesting, and it's also, there's no way to really plan for it except for to read and to understand as much as you can before going in, and then it's just, it's almost like, the best, I'm not saying that we are the best documentaries at all, but the best documentaries are go in with one thing in mind and are changed by what's happening, and it ends up becoming whatever it was meant to become. And I think we get really prepared, and then we just see where it goes. And that's human nature. Is when I'm going to visit someone who maybe is a Trump voter, or I don't know, like whoever, we're going to a very wealthy family in Wyoming, ranchers who are, Republicans, whatever. We're about to go, or I'm spending the day with a pro-life group, an anti-choice group. And it's human nature to, whatever we don't know, our brains fill it in with something else, preconceived notions. We can't avoid it, that happens. So to come in with preconceived notions and then let that either be proven true or more often than not blow up beautifully in our faces, is interesting to me. And I like being changed. This season, the interviews I did, which is the other element of the show, every interview kind of fundamentally changed me, to the core, I talked to Father Gregory Boyle, this Jesuit priest in East LA, who said, if we don't, I'm going to bastardize this, but basically, if we don't make friends with our wounds, we will be tempted to despise the wounded. That's something I think about all the time, isn't that far out?
Yeah.
Like, whoa, I see microcosms and macrocosms of that in my own life and in the world all the time. And, or Christian Picciolini, who was a skinhead, a Nazi for many years, and now helps people get out of hate groups, and he's this amazing man who said, find someone who doesn't deserve your compassion and give it to them, because that's what happened to him. And of course, hopefully there isn't anyone who doesn't deserve your compassion. And also what I've learned is that people go towards love. So you see people go kind of into dark places, or what I might perceive as dark places, and other people don't. It's because they found love there. They found acceptance there. So the more there's nuance, and I know nobody likes nuance right now, and it makes it hard to type out headlines that people will click on. But it's always, do you want to have compassion for a Nazi? fuck no, they're fucking racists, whatever. Then you go, well, one person showed this guy compassion without sacrificing anything himself. You know, a man of a black man who came into his white power record store every day and bought out a whole section of like white power records and did nothing but kind of love, like didn't say anything, just showed him love, and it changed him completely 180 degrees. Now there must have been something inside him all along.
Yeah, it sounds like you really enjoy the challenge of connecting with people, whether that's through humor or through compassion.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of the most hilarious moments that you had in season 1?
Oh my gosh. You know, one field piece that doesn't follow kind of the template of the show, but I really wanted to do is I get my glasses from this guy at Jack's Eyewear. It's this hole in the wall that my friend Reggie Watts and I will have like stony brunches, and we always go to this one cafe. And we walked around, we found it, and we both, you know, we both wear glasses, and so it's just this guy is kind of an idiot savant. I think we just call those savants now. Sorry. With glasses, but is this, dare I say, fringe right-wing, you know, just Breitbart is the gospel guy. And he recognized me right away, and it was like the first time I ever walked in, he just went right at me. But there's this underlying feeling, we fight like cats and dogs about politics and just go for the jugular, and it's just vitriol. But underneath it, there is some sort of, he loves me. I feel it. And even in the piece, I go, and we just scream at each other the whole time, but I'm also trying on glasses, and it's really how it is whenever I go in. And I said, this is crazy, we should shoot this, because he was so exactly how he is there was nothing different. The cameras, you know, there's the like Heisenberg principle that like the cameras kind of change the reality just by virtue of them being there, and it wasn't for some reason. Like it was just so how it always is. But we hate each other. But at the same time, and I say this at the end of the piece, is like, if he was sick, would I bring him soup? Ugh, maybe, probably.
So here's a hypothetical situation. What would a crossover episode look like between I Love America and Who is America, Sacha Baron Cohen's show?
You know, it's very funny because Sasha and I are very close, and we're very good friends, and we are call each other brother and sister. You know, we just ever since we met, we've been like siblings, and we emailed a lot around his show coming out and everything, and I saw a couple versions of it before it came out, and I think it's just beyond brilliant. We were laughing because they're kind of like the same show on total opposite spectrums, you know. And to me, like, the thing that it has in common is the truth. I mean, he may be in a costume and prosthetics, but what he's exposing is what is the truth. You know, people, you know, look, I do on-camera interviews all the time, and so do all of these politicians. And when someone says, well, you look down the barrel of the camera and say, blah, 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 you know, this script, I look at it, and sometimes I will, and oftentimes I go, absolutely not. I don't agree with what that is. Those people chose to say what they said. There is no trickery in that. He's pretending to be someone else, but if that person was a real person, they still did what they did. You know, have I said things I regret or that don't hold up, or, you know, is comedy evergreen? Most certainly not. And we talk a lot about that in this next season that I'm excited about. I like being able to call myself out, and I've got plenty to do that with. I've grown and changed in so many ways, and all I can do is be changed by things and and live my life forever that way, you know. And I love people who can be changed, and that's the theme of the interview part. Is the interview segment is people who have been changed, which is everyone, you know. But that's kind of what we like to focus on, and also how do you wash your asshole, which is like another thing we like to ask everyone to eventually just show. Everyone has their own style, but everybody does it.
Yep.
I mean, not everybody. I come from comedians.
Well, last question to you, Sarah. At the end of season 1, you met up with Jesus at a coffee shop. Mm-hmm. What is season 2 going to look like?
There is going to be a lot more of that kind of stuff. Jesus at a sandwich shop. That was a sketch we did with where I basically bump into Jesus, played by Fred Armisen, at a Quiznos, Quizzies, and it's such a fun way to explore kind of the big questions. If anything, I think like the time we're living in right now is very, at its best, it's causing existential crises for all of us, and I think that ultimately that's a good thing.
After about a year to contemplate, have you noticed a difference in, you know, are we more divisive than ever?
In a lot of ways, yes, but I remain hopeful.
Sarah Silverman, thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you at Emmy's night.
Thanks.